Breaking news on Twitter gone wrong. This case involves two people, but before we dive into what happened, we should do a little backstory on each of them. The first is Adam Schefter, ESPN's senior NFL insider. Schefter has been with ESPN since 2009 and appears on many different NFL shows and broadcasts, such as NFL Live, which is shown in the photo here. He is the closest thing the NFL has to the Woj bomb, as he constantly breaks news to the NFL community. The other is Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins played college football at Ohio State, and while he was there, he broke Big Ten records in both passing yards and passing touchdowns per season in 2018. And because of that, he was seen as one of the top quarterbacks in the draft class that year. He ended up being the 15th overall pick in the 2019 NFL draft to the, at the time, Washington Redskins. Later in his career, he was signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And with longtime starter for the Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, retiring this past offseason, he had a chance to become the team starting quarterback in 2022. So what happened in this case? On Saturday, April 9th of this year, 2022, Schefter broke some news. QB Dwayne Haskins tragically passed away, and to break the news, Schefter tweeted this. Dwayne Haskins, a standout at Ohio State before struggling to catch on with the NFL and Pittsburgh in the NFL, died this morning when he got hit by a car in South Florida, per his agent Cedric Saunders. Haskins would have turned 25 years old on May 3rd. There was instant outrage to this post, from fans to NFL players, including Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson and Haskins' former teammate at Ohio State, Cardale Jones. The tweet was called insensitive, and with the amount of backlash received, Schefter then deleted this tweet. Around 20 minutes later, he posted this reworded tweet to the right. Dwayne Haskins, a standout at Ohio State before becoming Washington's first-round pick and playing in Pittsburgh, died this morning when he got hit by a car in South Florida. Per his agent Cedric Saunders, Haskins would have turned 25 years old on May 3rd. The backlash did not stop, and screenshots of this original tweet kept resurfacing. On that following Monday, Adam Schefter then went on his podcast, the Adam Schefter Podcast, to make his apology. On this podcast, he stated, "I wish I could have that tweet back. The focus should have been on Dwayne. Dwayne Haskins was beloved by his teammates in the NFL community, as the outpouring of support from over the weekend showed. This is the Dwayne Haskins that deserves to be remembered. This is the way he was and the way he lived. And apologies that was not made clearer sooner by me, but the people who knew him best knew this already." Now, this situation leads to many different ethical questions for both journalists and our society as a whole to reflect on. There are also many levels to this case. First and foremost, should Schefter have used the words struggling to catch on with Washington and Pittsburgh in the NFL? Now, Schefter has covered the NFL for over 30 years, so that begs some more questions. Does being a journalist for as long as Schefter has make you more likely to become quote-unquote numb to these sorts of stories? After all, you break stories constantly. And is it possible to put that human element of those you're covering on the back burner? The second, should Schefter have deleted the original tweet? I mean, is it ever ethical to delete a tweet, especially when you're breaking news? On one hand, it affects the transparency of the news being reported, and journalists, as we know, serve as a public forum, and transparency is a very important aspect of that. And on the other side, if there was a mistake or it was seen as insensitive, like in this case, could deleting it have been the best option? Could it be better for the greater good having less people see the original tweet? And another question to consider, would he have deleted it or used the same approach if there was no backlash? Now, negative comments and posts have unfortunately become a major part of Twitter and are present on most posts on the site. But were these comments in this situation warranted? The third, Was going on his own podcast the most ethical way to apologize for his mistake? Now, with his podcast, he is able to go a little bit more in depth and in more detail with his apology than the 240 character limit that Twitter has. But on the other hand, he profits from interactions and views on his personal podcast. I mean, after all, it is called the Adam Schefter Podcast. Was there a better way to form an apology, or was his podcast the best way to go about it? The fourth ethical question: could the wording of the tweet have been a result of our society that we live in today? We currently live in a society where everyone wants the news right away. Could this have been a reason why Schefter tweeted it out as quickly as he did? Is it possible he rushed through this tweet and not think it through so he could be the first to break the news? These are some of the questions that we need to look at and analyze. So why is it important for us to look at these? Twitter is not going anywhere. It is a social media platform where people go to break news, and having a following is essential to having a successful career nowadays. And if you have a long, successful career in journalism, which we all hope for, you will need to at times cover these tragic stories and could have the opportunity to be the first to break the news. And journalists reflect the society that they cover. So what would you do in this case, and what ethical theories would you look to for your reasoning?